And boom, we're live. All right, GM everyone. I'm doing my weekly batch analysis on Friday right now because I'm not gonna have time during the weekend. I have some in real life stuff to do. So I thought I'm gonna do it right now, and then I'll probably watch it myself on Monday or something, just to remind myself before the session. And yeah, just to generally stay in the loop of repetition and practicing and all of that stuff. So last week, let's check what happened last week. So generally, I was happy with my contacts and my validations. I still made quite a few mistakes on my E. Mostly didn't trade the perfect EMB setup, and also I had an ugly V here, minus 5.4 overall. Would be 1 plus 8 if I didn't make any mistakes. So with that being said, I remember I was really really putting emphasis on paying attention to perfect entries. And that's gonna be, well, I'm gonna pay attention to that. I'm gonna see how I executed this week and whether I was able to do that. I have how many? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 trades this week, but quite a few of them I didn't take, mostly because I believe they were in gray area. Let me just check. So this week, wow, this is loading up for quite a while. Okay. So I know that there is a couple that I didn't take. I think at least like three. Oh, this is not didn't take. Okay, let's go contains did not take. Okay, so there's three. I forgot to meant to mark up one of them. So yeah, I guess I will get to that later. The first one was there was one win on silver that I didn't take. I don't even know where that is. Oh, it's right here. Okay, and one break even on NAS 100. Okay, whatever. I'll get to that. But in general, I recently refined my entry really well. So I created this whole beauty here based on my data, and I'm going to try my very best to stick to these entries because they seem to work to me. And I also created this little thing. So I remember last week I was talking a little bit about that opportunities are quite rare these days. Like the market overall has been pretty shit, in my opinion. Maybe someone is managing to make money. I don't know how, but I'm certainly not. At least not in a consistent way where I would be entering. And if I continued to enter the same way over a longer period, let's say over 1,000 trades, I still would need to be profitable, right? I don't think such an approach really would work in this market right now. It's just it's a bad market. Anytime something starts moving, it ultimately dies off, and there's nothing to follow. So but there are opportunities in the initial momentum, and that's pretty much like most of my trades in these last couple of weeks, where I'm just trying to extract some profit from the initial move. And if I execute perfectly, it is definitely possible. But it's very important to have my rules super well defined so that one, I don't chase the entry when it's not there, and two, I don't continue chasing it when it's no longer there. So this diagram is pretty much the same thing as the diagram that Anton created with the V cycle. It's just that I created it for myself to really visualize nicely where is it actually that I am finding edge. So this is generally like a perfectly moving market, right? Of course, uh, at any time in these like green, well, I guess this is yellow. Yeah, the green looked horrible. In any of these yellow parts, of course, the market can poop itself at any time, right? But as long as I'm taking trades in these moments, I am setting myself up to success because we know, like, why is it that we have defined a momentum cycle for ourselves in the first place? We know that strong delivering markets, markets that actually go, those are the ones that are delivering above the EMA 10 and EMA 20, right? So From that, we can already extract one absolutely critical rule, and that is that in order to catch such trades, we simply need price action to happen above these EMAs. So, well, this should actually be red maybe here, but as long as I don't trade in stage ones, as long as I don't necessarily trade in reversal trades in the initial push that is happening here, and again, I don't trade in the sideways price action nonsense, as long as I have my DMB that gives me my directional confirmation, I set myself up for success. So this yellow area is really where I find edge for myself, and I only want to trade in this area. So that's why I drew this out for myself. I have found it to be extremely useful to create these resources for myself. It's very important to handcraft them and create them really myself, so it comes from my head, so that I actually have the understanding of it, and it's not just having Anton's diagram in front of me and be like, oh yeah, 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 that's cool, that's cool. No, this is something that I didn't look at his thing. I just know this is how it looks like, this is how it should look, and that's why I can create it. So just to go quickly through this, right? The perfect trade for me starts when we have the initial push out of a stage one that reaccumulates. And once we are in that reaccumulation, I like to wait for the reignition, the confirmation that the move wants to continue. And that pretty much happens from this moment forward. From this moment forward, I'm like, okay, this is doing exactly what I want to. On a higher time frame, this whole thing is an MMB that is happening above the 1020 EMA while they're rising. And this is the prime area for me to continue trading it. Then I still continue trading it here because the expectation is for it to continue. But once it breaks down and it fails, it loses its EMAs and everything, it loses its momentum cycle, I once again step away. And I have very clear rules of what needs to happen for me to start watching again. And that is having a DMB. So this is most likely my V time frame. So having a DMB on the V time frame, and then from this point forward, I can once again go to the lower time frame, to the 1 minute, to the 10-second, and continue trading it. So one thing that I have recently realized, or not really recently, but something that I have reiterated for myself is, especially for people that trade the lower time frames like me, like the 10-second and the 1 minute, we kind of, I bet like everyone who initially started this journey off, they probably believe that, hey, if I trade on this low time frame, I expect myself to have entries every single day, right? Because I trade this low time frame. But I've come to realize that that is not true whatsoever. So if we just, for example, I think I have a lesson in this regard. Let me just go check here. I created a new view for lessons. Do I have it here? No, I don't. That's unfortunate. I should have created that lesson. But anyway, long story short is, if the high time frame is not ready, why the heck would the the lower time frame be ready? So if I put it into more tangible terms, let's say that you trade the 1 minute with a 6 minute V. If the 6 minute is not ready, why the hell would you trade the 1 minute? And if this can be applied, then it can be applied fractally. Why would you trade the 6 minute if the 60 minute is not ready, right? And if you do this in a cascading way, where let's say you have, ooh, this is horrible. Let's say you have the 10-second entry, you have the 1 minute, you have the 6 minute, and you have the 60 minute, right? So let's say you enter on the 6 minute. Would you ever enter on a 6 minute if the 60 minute is not ready? You probably shouldn't, right? So if the 60 minute is not ready, that means you shouldn't enter on the 6 minute. But then if you want to enter on the 1 minute, you know that the 6 minute is not ready either, because the 60 minute is not ready. So the 1 minute should not be ready either, and so shouldn't the 10-second. So the way that I approach it these days is that all that the low time frame is allowing us to do is outperform the high time frame trade. So let's say that I have a trade here that would get tapped in on the 1 hour. If this is my 1 hour, then I really I should only start trading my low time frame once the 1 hour gets tapped in, because this is the move that I want to capitalize on the 1 hour, right? I will probably have my stop somewhere over here, and let's say my TP is over here, and all of this is my potential profit. Well, the low time frame allows me to outperform the high time frame. That's all it does. But it also means that my low time frame is only ready to be traded when the high time frame is ready to be traded. Because here, when I zoom into this price action, it will allow me to get a trade that maybe instead of a stop loss that is this big, it will allow me to have a stop loss that is maybe just this big, and I can get my profit way sooner, maybe somewhere over here. And also, I can get multiple trades inside of this. Well, let me create something nice. Maybe there's another entry over here, then it breaks down, then it creates something here. And maybe I can get like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 trades inside of what would be one trade on the 1 hour. Okay, so this is a new kind of understanding, a new rule for myself that I'm going to ultimately stick to from now on, and that is that the only reason why I'm trading the low time frame is because it allows me to outperform the high time frame and extract more profit out of the market when the time is ripe. And this is super important. When the time is ripe, that means that I'm only allowed to trade the low time frame when the high time frame is ready as well. So this is absolutely critical to me, and especially in these recent times when markets have been quite dry and they didn't have the follow up or the follow through of the moves. This is such a beautiful filter because it's basically going to prohibit me from trading in garbage price action. It's only going to allow me to trade when there's actually a delivering market that has shown that it wants to continue, aka when the context is right. Okay, so that is something that I just quickly wanted to talk about because I think it's extremely, extremely important for a low time frame trader like me. But now let's get into these trades. So this week, again, full TP at 5R. I've changed from 6 to 5. Pay attention to perfect entries. This is probably the most important thing that I want to pay attention to these days. Use alerts. I can unbolt all of this because really I think this is already well ingrained in my mind. And this section has been so useful for me because over these past 23 weeks, I just kept changing this up, kept paying attention to certain things over and over, even though I made mistakes in them, until I eventually drill it into my mind and it becomes second nature. So these days, I really like most of these, I don't make too many mistakes on, but now I just need to put it all together and just take perfect entries. What that means is in the past, I would be allowed to take gray area trades, but now I don't take them. I just like, if some trade is interesting, I can include it in my data collection and tag it as gray zone, but didn't take. And I can then analyze it like I will today, but I am not going to actually trade it. And I need to train myself in this. I need to train emotional discipline. I need to get better at it. It's the only way forward because there is no time to think for 10-second entries, and I need to be very proficient at this. All right, enough talk. Let's go into the trades. And I don't know how this week is going to look like, but I think I'm going to be quite happy with how I executed. So let's see if that's actually true. All right, so starting off, we have a UJ break even. Okay, so here we are, UJ, right? Some kind of downtrend over here, but previously there was some move here, so I probably saw all of this maybe as reaccumulation or whatever. Either way, I wasn't really trading until there was a solid breakout somewhere over here. So here we just had the downtrend, right? Then we had a stage 2. Stage 1, I wasn't trading in this stage one, and I waited for it to break higher above this point, confirming a reaccumulation, and with that, confirming a new trend direction. So after that, here, I was very happy to trade. So let's take a look at how this push looked like on the 6 minute. So we had some strong stage two over here. Looks like a lot of inefficiency left behind overall above the rising 1020 EMA tunnel, looking pretty good. And then we have some kind of stage one happening over here. Of course, I assume reaccumulation, but pretty much once it fails over here and continues lower, I'm no longer looking for anything, and I'm looking for a solid breakout out of this range. We have a little bit of range shenanigans over here happening. I remember I started watching here and I was hoping for something like this to happen, to start following, but that didn't happen. So I started, I put an alert above here, and once this happened, I got an alert and I started watching. So on the 1 minute, here's the breakout, right? Very strong breakout, very strong. If we take a look on the 10-second, beautiful, beautiful stage two, big chunky candles in my direction above the rising 1020. Absolutely beautiful. So once it breaks down and loses its momentum cycle, I instantly assume reaccumulation, and I'm looking for my double MB setup. And these, I already filled that in earlier. This is the DMB. Very nice DMB. This is a good MB1 box. The validation is very strong. Buy button has been pressed. Got us above the EMAs, rising EMAs, proportional MB2. This is perfect. I absolutely love this trade. That taps me in. Let's take a look how I managed. On this candle right here, that's when I reduce my risk. And this is when I go completely risk-free after it wicks. And yeah, that simply starts chopping, doesn't have enough strength in it, doesn't want to move higher, and comes back to break even. I'm super happy with this trade. I think this trade was absolutely perfect. Very, very nice context. So let's label that up. What am I going to say here? This is just good momentum because it's already in a new trending stage. This is a stage one breakout, and it's also happening on really good momentum. This is very good momentum overall, and this is a perfect DMB. Perfect DMB, or just perfect entry, whatever. So overall, I love this trade. I think it's perfect. Let's do all of this. Management was perfect as well. So overall, perfect trade. Beautiful. Moving on, we got a trade on gold. So here's gold. Previously had some kind of move higher, and then it started correcting, going sideways or down, whatever the heck this is. And I drew this diagonal here, and here it broke out. You can see I already had a few trades over here, I guess. And then it died off, so nothing to watch. But then eventually it breaks above all of this, and that's when I start following again. So here we are on the 6 minute. I'm not quite sure what the heck this trade was over here. Maybe I was just testing something. Yeah. I remember. I think this was before my session. Yeah. This happened at like 8:56 or something. But there was a beautiful valid trade for +5. But I wasn't trading, so it's not part of my data set. But yeah, this is an insane stage two, right? So once that starts reaccumulating and it shows some willingness to continue higher, of course, I'm going to try to jump on that train. So here we have some kind of stage one that breaks out. Let's take a look how that looked like on the 1 minute. Beautiful stage one, big, strong breakout. Lots of inefficiency left behind, big chunky candles, small candles in opposite direction, all EMAs rising with a pretty aggressive slope. This is looking super, super good. So now on the 10-second, if I get a breakdown, I'm going to be super happy to take the trade. And here, it breaks down, loses its momentum cycle, comes to the EMA 50 just to create MB1, which is one of my very specific setups that I actually like. Then strong MB1 validation, prints a very similarly sized MB2, and that's the trade I take. It taps me in. Let's take a look how I managed. Taps me in, still not enough strength or anything, but here it has like two beautiful, big, chunky candles away from my entry, so I reduce risk to the orange line for the first time. Starts going sideways a little bit, and then creates this structure, fractal structure, breaks above it, and that's when I go completely risk-free. And there's simply not enough strength in this move, not enough juice, and it comes back to break even. So once again, this is, in my opinion, a beautiful, perfect, picture-perfect trade. I love this one. So I'm going to say this was really good momentum, of course. This was insane. This was so nice. Good momentum and also stage 1 breakout. Okay, 1 minute, very good momentum, and 10-second perfect entry. All right. So far, so good. Another perfect trade. Lovely. Perfect management as well. So yeah, perfect. Good, good. Moving on, we have another trade on gold. So let's take a look at the 1 hour, what has changed here. Okay, cool. Let's take a look at the 6 minute. That's going to be better for storytelling purposes. So previously we were in this push over here. So this pulled back for an MMB1, I guess. The momentum cycle is still very much intact. Then it goes higher, but fails. This is the trade. I think this is the trade that I took. No. I just set something up, but it probably didn't tap me in or some shit. But I was looking for a trade here as well, which is completely valid, right? Well, maybe it wasn't. It really depends on... Oh, I can see it here. Yeah, the stage 2 was pretty decent. So yeah, I was looking for a trade here. I'm not quite sure. Is this the same? It's definitely not the same trade. Something happened here and I didn't take this trade. I don't know what it was. It doesn't really matter. Here it loses its momentum cycle and creates a stage 1, right? That's the instant expectation. Whenever the momentum cycle breaks down, the instant expectation for me is some kind of stage 1 and a breakout higher that I can follow. That's exactly what happens. We can see that here on the 1 minute beautifully, right? This is my accumulation MB, breaks up higher into MMB1, and now it's in MMB2, and I'm absolutely valid to continue following this. I'm pretty sure I was looking for an entry here as well. Yeah, I was, but this simply didn't set up in the way that I would have wanted to. I was considering this trade, but I didn't like the MB1 validation here. Like this would be my MB1, this would be my MB2, but I didn't take it because it wasn't perfect, which is good. And here it breaks down, goes below the EMA 50, creates MB1, strong MB1 validation, creates MB2 that is proportional, and yeah, that's the trade that I take. On the 1 minute, this is beautiful, right? Very strong momentum cycle, pulling back into the prime area of the rising 1020. So I take that, taps me in, chops around a little bit, and fucks me up ultimately. Maybe there is an argument to be made that I could have gotten out of it over here, but honestly, I remember like here I was still like, okay, maybe this continues. And once it broke down here, that's when I tried to get out at break even, but it no longer did that and it tapped me out for a -1. And that's okay. That's okay. I think this trade was also beautiful. So definitely good momentum over here. Very good momentum over here. Very good momentum over here. This is so important that I have the good momentum everywhere. You can see that all the moves that I'm trading are big impulsive moves that look like they want to continue. And this entry itself, in my opinion, was absolutely perfect too. Perfect entry. So even though this is a -1, I think it was absolutely perfect. So far, so good. So yeah, perfect. Moving on, we got a trade on EU, -1 on EU. So we have some ongoing downtrend over here that breaks higher, and I guess I'm waiting most importantly for it to break higher over here so that I have my DMB and the confirmed direction of this trend, right? This breaks out with A very, very strong move. Lots of inefficiency left behind. And here it pulls back into the prime area of the rising 1020. So a momentum cycle is very much underway, and my expectation is, of course, that it's going to continue. So taking a look at the 6 minute, what do I have here? I have a big strong move that starts reaccumulating, and then I have a very strong impulsive move higher that I think has the potential to continue over here. So yeah, let's take a look how that looks on the 1 minute. So there is some kind of stage one. I would say probably this whole thing is my stage one because that's like the clearly defined resistance. Every time the market comes to these areas, the cells start raining, right? And this is what I call clear skies ahead when it breaks this resistance point, aka the accumulation MB. Now there's clear skies ahead. There's no more like self-suppressing the market, and my expectation is, of course, that we're going to go higher. So this stage two over here, let me just see. I wish I could see this line over here, but it doesn't matter too much. What matters is that this is a very strong impulsive move, and of course, this is the expectation. So let's see on the 10-second. Big move, right? Reaccumulates a little bit. Big move continues. Here it comes back, breaks the momentum cycle. So immediately, by the way, it didn't break the momentum cycle over here. This is not an MB for me. This is just like a little dip. But here it actually has a nice break lower. And this is MB1, this is MB2. I like the MB1. I like the MB1 validation, but honestly, I'm not going to say it's a mistake. I would just like it to be a little bit higher so that this MB2 would happen somewhere over here. There is a there is an argument to be made that this was a little bit too weak. Like overall, all of this is nice, but I should have waited for a little bit more strength, just a tiny little bit more strength. Like yeah, if if this if this candle did not happen, and instead it would happen over here, this would be my buy stop, I would be very, very happy with it. Because here, the EMAs are not really rising, and it's kind of flat, and overall, it's just a little bit weak. So I'm going to say this trade was good, but it was kind of a gray area, I would say. Like, ideally, I would like to trade trades that are a bit more like this. So, yeah, I'm going to keep that here as well. But yeah, overall, like all of this here was beautiful. Very good momentum on the 1 hour, very good momentum over here on the 6 minute, which was also a stage one breakout. So really what stage one breakout means is that it's simply like the very fresh, the beginning of a momentum cycle, pretty much the earliest part of the momentum cycle when the accumulation MB gets validated and you're looking to follow through on that momentum. And when it's just good momentum, that simply means that it's already a trending market and there's an established direction. So this was good momentum, definitely on the 1 minute. I like it a lot. And here, I'm going to say this was a good entry. It wasn't perfect. What I'm going to say is maybe a bit weak. That could definitely be better. That's the one thing that could be better. So I'm not going to call it perfect. I'm just going to call it good. And maybe over time, as I take more of these and I see how they play out, I might eventually like rule them out as a mistake and not take them. We'll see how that goes. But overall, I'm quite happy with this trade. So, good context, good momentum, and here, oh, I'm gonna say questionable entry. Questionable why? Because it was weak, weak, weak. Where is the weak, man? MB1, no, that's not it. Weak MB1 validation, that's it. Management-wise, there was nothing to do. So overall, I'm gonna give it a good. Yeah, and is there weak? And a little bit weak. But yeah, not bad. All right, here is a trade on US 100, and I didn't take this one, which kind of sucks. And this is something that has happened to me several times already. I think I must have written here something as well regarding that. But anyway, let's first analyze this trade. So we have an ongoing bullish market that breaks down a little bit. So immediately I expect there's going to be some kind of stage one. I would say this is the stage one over here. Here it breaks out, pulls back beautifully into the rising 1020 and starts moving higher, right? Here we can see this was the stage one that happened, and from here it started moving higher. I wasn't following anything here, and here it got kind of choppy. Like you can see this, like what the fuck is this? Like these wicks and everything. Looks like Darth Maul entered the chat twice. And I guess that's also the reason why I kind of wasn't watching NAS 100 as much. But we can see that like even though these wicks happen, it still holds its momentum cycle and it continues going higher. And here it kind of gets nice and clean. So here on the 1 minute, right, we can see ugly, 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 ugly. But then all of a sudden it breaks higher here, and this is looking kind of nice. This looks like a nice fresh momentum cycle. So I thought, hey, okay, this could actually work. So if we get a nice break of the momentum cycle and a perfect DMB, I should take it. And here, this stage two is pretty decent. Here it had a little bit of a dip for reaccumulation, but instantly pushed up higher. We can see there's not big sell candles, but there are pretty big buy candles. It's not the strongest stage two in the world. Like there's not a lot of acceleration away. Like there's some acceleration here, some acceleration here. So it's not perfect in this term, but I think it's pretty good. And here, once it breaks down, I see that this is like my MB1. This breaks down here and starts chopping around, so I can create a nice box around that. MB1 validation is really, really nice, and MB2 is looking super nice as well. So that I should have taken, and if it had tapped me in, I would have reduced risk somewhere over here, and after the fractal structure that happens over here on this candle, I would be break even. But fortunately, I didn't take this, so here I wrote, kinda sucks that I missed this. It was the only market that I was watching today. I should have adjusted my watchlist monitor and caught this. Gotta get better at this. Big mistake. Huge. Yeah, I really gotta get better at this. I know that I think during London, if I remember correctly, there were a couple of markets that I was watching and they all kind of pooped themselves, and NAS 100 was the only one that looked somewhat decent. But then once it started like doing this choppy nonsense over here, I kind of stopped paying attention and I was working on something else, right? Because that's why I didn't take it. Yes, was working on something else. And it also happened quite late in my session. Like this is, what is this? Like actually, I can simply, I don't have time here, but I have time here. Yeah, 16:57. That's quite late. Usually that's when I end my session already, but it was still definitely valid. And if I had adjusted my my watchlist monitor, it would be okay. So what I should have done, I already took notes regarding that, but what I should have done is I simply should have adjusted my second monitor where I have my watch list, and I should have adjusted like the view for just one market and have the 10-second, 1 minute, and 6 minute there, and just continue following it and maybe set some alerts or whatever. Especially since I was only watching one market, and unfortunately I missed quite a beautiful +5. So yeah, that sucks, but it is what it is. So yeah, good momentum over here for sure. Good momentum here. Possibly a bit choppy. Maybe a bit choppy, but it's cleared out. I don't know if I'm using the proper grammar here, but it cleared up, cleared out, cleared whatever. I know what I mean. That's what matters. And here on the 1 minute, I mean, yeah, I would say it's good momentum. Some inefficiency left behind, kind of strong. Yeah, this is good as well, but this could potentially be better. So I'm gonna say good entry here, and I'm gonna say stage two could be stronger. That's the only thing that I can think about that like made this trade not perfect, but it made it good. I'm gonna call it good. Was still very, very good, but could be a tiny, tiny little bit stronger. So yeah, 60-minute good context, good momentum. Here, I'm gonna say good momentum, but maybe I don't know. Like the 1 minute looks 1 minute looks good. Yeah, but the 10 second here, I'm gonna call it a questionable entry. And questionable why? Because because a little bit choppy. That's what I'm gonna say. Management wise, that would of course be perfect had I taken it. Max RR is filled in. Okay, so I'm gonna call this trade good. I didn't take it, definitely should have taken it. Okay, moving on. We got a UJ trade. So what do we have here on UJ? We have an ongoing bullish trend that breaks down. So instantly, whenever something breaks down, my instant assumption, as always, is, holy shit. Wait a second. We got 1434. The market just opened, so I just got to check my charts real quick if there's anything that just got interesting. Uh, how does this look on the 6 minute? Blech, that's ugly. This is ugly. This is ugly. Maybe silver? Nah. Okay, even though the market opened, it looks absolute trash. Never mind. And as you can see, it took me 10 or 15 seconds to go over my entire watch list and see if it's trash or not. But yeah, it was trash. So anyway, back to this one, right? Ongoing bullish trend, breaks down, loses its momentum cycle. Instant assumption is, of course, that there's going to be some kind of stage one accumulation happening. That's, of course, what happens over here. Breaks higher. I don't look for trades here just yet because here we already have quote unquote order flow to the downside. So here I wait for a confirmed reaccumulation. So here it goes higher. I wait for it to pull back and break above this high, and that's when I start following. And that's exactly what happens. I can see that here on the 6 minute, it's probably this high over here. So this is an ongoing momentum cycle that is just pulling back into the prime area of the rising 10 and 20 EMA. That's exactly where I want to see a trade. And this is a 1 minute trade. And here we have a strong stage two, right? Here it chops a little bit, but here it clears out again. It's very strong. So here overall, this is good enough for me to look for a trade. Here it breaks down and it creates an MB1, comes back. It's a little bit choppy over here, like a little bit wicky. But these wicks, as long as it's just wicks, I'm totally fine with taking it. So this DMB was good enough for me to trade. It's a 1 minute entry, and this taps me in. So let's take a look how that played out. Okay, taps me in, and pretty much on this candle, not this one, the previous one that creates a lot of inefficiency. That's when I move to break even, and after some back and forth, this ultimately, like later in the night, reaches TP. Yeah, so I think this trade was pretty nice. Like, if I don't like one thing, it would probably be the E. Like, again, similar as the trade before, I wish this was a little bit higher, and then the MB would happen somewhere here. That would be perfect. But I will say that this was good enough. So what do we have here? We have good momentum, of course. We have very good momentum on the 6 minute. That was insane. We have, oh, this is the entry already? Yeah, this is the entry already. So when it comes to the pullback overall, yeah, even if this is a new range. So I know I made a rule about like the depth of the pullback. So if I have a range, right, like let's say something like, if I have a new range over here, I kind of want this pullback to be relatively shallow, meaning at least above like the 50. But I've been backtesting it, I've been paying more attention to it, and what I found, or what I tend to believe these days, is that as this range gets created, it leaves behind a demand zone, right? Some kind of demand zone, let's say over here, just like we used to trade back in the day with S&D. And as long as this demand zone holds, I should be completely valid to look for trades over here. So when this comes, let's say, back and it creates some kind of stage one, and then it starts going higher, I should be totally valid to trade this. this shouldn't be invalidated. Like, based on how trends move, they can definitely move like this. It There's nothing saying that the trend must move with super shallow pullbacks only. Anton himself, MentFX, used to trade these zones exclusively, but the only reason that he changed to momentum cycles is because there were so many trades in this area that he missed. And he wanted to create a system so he can also capitalize on these quicker moves. But just because we did that and now we included this does not mean that we should exclude this, right? Because previously we were trading this exclusively. So why the heck should I now kind of filter it all out? Doesn't make any sense. So ultimately, this is how I'm going to be approaching my ranges. So as long as there is a nice demand zone, I should be valid to trade it. So that was just a quick little intermission. And here on the 6 minute, like clearly there is a demand zone over here that was created that left behind inefficiency. So the expectation, of course, is that this can do something like this. That's why I allowed myself to trade this. That's why I am valid to trade this, even though like a couple of weeks ago, I would say, okay, so this is my range, right? From here to here, 50 is probably somewhere over here. So once it loses this, I'm no longer allowed to trade. I think that's unnecessary, and ultimately it's, well, I'm not sure if it's negative EV. Probably not negative EV. It's still very positive EV, but it cuts away a lot of potential opportunity for me, which I don't want. So anyway, this was still a valid trade, even with the EMA 50 rule, where we just create the MB below the 50 and immediately fire up. And yeah, the only thing that I don't necessarily like, as I said already, is that this trade would have been much nicer if it happened a little bit higher. So I'm only going to call this a good entry. Good entry, and MB1 validation could be stronger. That's what I'm going to say. So ultimately, whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. Ultimately, it was good. And yeah, this ended up being a winner. To be completely honest, I'm not sure if it would tap me out in a sense of like taking my TP, because after this happened, it pretty much reversed instantly. But I think this was enough to tap me out, honestly. I really think so. But there is a tiny little chance that that it didn't. So yeah, just something to be wary of. So good context, good momentum, and this was a 1 minute entry, right? Okay, so not this. And I'm gonna say good entry. Yeah, good entry, but possibly weak MB1 validation. Okay. I need to play around with these a little bit and group them nicely, because over time, since New Year, I have filled out several things, several new things, and certain ones I don't even use anymore, like below diagonal, resistance. Like, I don't use those, so I gotta go over that. But yeah, anyway, management-wise, this was also perfect. And yeah, this was a relatively good trade. And yeah, I'm gonna write weak MB1 validation here. Probably not. No, you know what? No, I'm not. It was a good trade. Okay, moving on. There is a NAS 100 trade. Let's take a look. Okay, so we had a previous entry over here that I didn't take. That ended up being a +5, I believe. That pulled back to the rising 1020. But that was 6 a.m. in the morning, so wasn't really paying attention. And then it got really choppy and ugly, so I wasn't looking for anything here. But then it cleared out. It held the momentum cycle, even though it wicked through it. And then huge momentum comes in, right? We can see that here on the 6 minute. Absolutely insane momentum, even on the 1 minute. So here probably there was some kind of stage 1 or whatever. And here's probably MMB1, and this is most likely MMB2 right now. So I'm definitely viable to take this higher. One thing that might have prevented me from trading this is that when these kind of things happen, like especially above some kind of swing point, like here, Very often, these are for redistribution purposes and it fucks off, right? That happens very, very often. And when that happens on, like, let's say the 10-second, I often like to do this, that I have this line here, that's the liquidity point, and I like to see it break through, and then I don't trade here just yet, but then I want to see it go above again. This is simply to rule out redistribution, because if it just comes in and instantly fucks off to the downside, just grabs this liquidity, usually it doesn't come up again, right? So I kind of want to rule that out. And I didn't do that here on the 1 minute. Maybe I should have started trading after this high, but even then, I think like taking risk here makes quite a lot of sense. Maybe maybe this was overextended. I don't know. I don't think so. I think this was pretty okay. But yeah, this ultimately, I remember this ended up doing exactly that. It tapped us in and boom, ultimately fucked off. So yeah, also like this is pretty much confirmation of that. This just taps in here, redistributes, and goes lower. So I don't know. It's something that I'm paying attention to. Maybe I should backtest these specific setups a little bit more to decide what I want to do. But if it wasn't for the swing point over here, this trade would be pretty much perfect, I believe, because we had a pretty strong stage two over here. Like the buy candles are not as big as I would want to. Like there's not too much acceleration away, like these pops, like whenever it reaccumulates and then it pops. That's kind of what I like to see. Maybe this was a little bit of that dragging your balls higher kind of nonsense, and that should have possibly prevented me from not taking this trade. But the DMB itself, once it flushed out, right, this was MB1 and this was MB2, which was very nice and proportional with good validation. I think that entry was pretty nice. So anyway, this one, yeah, I don't know, like, mm, mm. all of this is just, it's so sus. Like all of this chop, it's very, very suspicious. I don't really know how to approach this. Like ultimately, right. I pretty much took the first possible opportunity for me to trade this. Maybe I should have just like waited a little bit longer and take the next setup, because if this ends up going higher, right, then all of this was for purpose of reaccumulation. So all of this was money exchanging hands, uh, weak to strong, and that should ultimately result in a violent move higher. Which, if this happened, all of this would open up or would present me with so many new opportunities and good opportunities. So maybe I was a little bit too early here. That's probably how I'm ultimately going to approach this. Yeah, that's how I want to do it. So this was a mistake. Yeah, ugly context. Yeah, ugly context. Blah, what the fuck? Very choppy. So here we definitely had good momentum. Very good momentum here on the 1 minute as well. And here on the 10-second, yeah, weak stage two, I would say. Like on the 1 minute, it looks pretty good, right? Lots of inefficiency left behind. So I guess it's all right. I guess it's all right. Like it's not that weak. Looks pretty good. Like the slope is quite aggressive. Nah, this was all right. I actually like this entry. Yeah, I'm gonna call it a good entry. Good entry. So yeah, the only thing that I don't like is the context, and I should have been a little bit more patient. So I'm gonna label this as a mistake ultimately. So 60-minute, ugly context, stage one. Like yeah, it looks like it wants to break out, but it's like it's too early to tell. Like it's just getting out, and I should get a little bit more confirmation to not get faked out. Good momentum here. Was it a 1 minute entry? No, it was a 10-second entry. Good momentum here and good entry. Management-wise, nothing to do. I got instantly fucked up. And tax, mistake. Too early. Stage 1. Yeah, and I'm gonna write here. Should have ruled out redistribution. No, distribution on 60 men. Yep. That's, if I did that, I wouldn't have taken this -1, and I would still find myself in very good context. So, yep, that's how I'm gonna approach this. Next up, so here is, oh man, I'm trading the same shit here again. Okay. So it's exactly the same context, right? So I took 2 trades here on NAS 100. Ugh. All right. That's fine. I mean, yeah, like when that's happening right in that moment, when you see this kind of momentum come into the market, of course you get excited about it, right? So it takes a lot of restraint to not take such a trade. But anyway, here the only difference is that here it pulls back a little bit deeper to the rising 1020. And let's take a look at how this MB looked like. How does the MB look like? So I would say probably this whole thing is an MB. Why is it lag? Damn. Boop. All right, and this MB over here. Yeah, I should not have taken that. I should not have taken that, I think. Ooh, I know why I took this. I know. Did I actually take this? Oh, I didn't. Okay, good, good. Because it's the gray area. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. So I got a little bit confused here. Didn't take. And the reason why I didn't take this is exactly because of this that I was just looking at, and I was like, ooh, mistake, man. I should not have taken this, right? Because the MBs are not necessarily proportional. And then I remembered, and this is why I remembered, because I used the FIB tool over here. And I remembered, man, like, what does a perfect MB2 look like? Does it really need to be above the EMAs? Or is it enough if it just like if it has enough momentum? And I remember I used to gouge momentum simply by seeing if the pullback is deeper than the 50 or not. Honestly, I need to test this a little bit because I cannot have. This is like the last point where I have a tiny little bit of confusion. Not confusion, but let's say uncertainty. Really, last point in my entries. Should I settle for only taking proportional MBs like this? Or should I open myself up to allow MBs such as this one as well, as long as it doesn't pull deeper than the 50? Yeah, I must test this because this is my last question pretty much in regards to my E time frame. And once I have this answered, I will be golden. But I need to test this. I can't just like make a decision right now. So that's a task for me for next week. Because I think there is a good argument to be made that I'm limiting myself and not taking opportunities that are actually really good, like this one. Because maybe like the MB1, MB2 doesn't necessarily need to be proportional. Maybe it doesn't need to be like it's like this just tapped out and instantly reversed. I think this entry was pretty decent, honestly, but I didn't take it. And I'm glad I didn't take it because it was a gray area. It was something that I was unsure about, something where I hesitated a little bit. And when that happens, I ultimately don't want to take these entries. I need to have complete clarity. So I'm glad that I didn't take it. I also created this new thingy here called gray area. So that's exactly how I'm going to approach all of these upcoming trades that I'm not completely sure about. I'm just not going to take them and I'm going to tag them as gray area, and then I can troubleshoot them later and like go create some backtests or whatnot. But yeah, I'm glad I didn't take this. So this was a questionable entry. But overall, yeah, even because of this context, I probably should not have taken this because it's ugly context. It's very good momentum. That's probably why I took these in the first place. And on the 10-second, it's a questionable entry. Management wise, I would go risk free after this big candle away from my entry. And here I even write, perhaps I can continue using the FIB tool for entries to gauge momentum. Yep. And this starts moving very nicely, but ultimately doesn't have enough. It doesn't have enough juice in it and comes back to break even. So management wise, it was perfect. So here, what I'm gonna say is, yeah, well, it was a mistake because it was stage one. It should be the same as the previous one. Mistake, too early, and stage one. Yeah. Do I have, yeah, too early, stage one. Okay, cool. And yeah, that's a mistake, but I didn't take it, so it's fine. And ultimate last one is silver. So this one I didn't take. Silver has been off my watch list for ages, but it looks like it's well tradable on Mint Funding. Spread is nice, so I'm gonna include it from now on. Yeah, like previously I was watching silver on these typical brokers like Oanda and FXCM, and they had horrible spread for me for the 1 minute and 10-second entries, right? But Mint Funding actually has a very decent spread on it, so it has become a tradable asset for me. And I wasn't aware of it until one of my buddies traded it, and that made me reevaluate and take a look at it. And yes, it's actually a very good asset to trade. So let's take a look at this. Here we have a very strong move that starts reaccumulating and creating some kind of stage one. So once it breaks above with momentum, I'm kind of happy to take a look at it. Right here on the 6 minute, this is a 10-second entry, so this is my C. So this is by no means overextended. This is just a very strong move. And here on the 1 minute, I guess the last reset was this stage one over here. So from here, I'm gonna try to see a new count. So I would say this was one area, this was another one, this is all one big move. So yeah, I think this was by no means overextended and this could easily continue. So here on the 10-second, once it starts reaccumulating, let's take a look at how these MBs actually look like. So I would say this is the MB1 over here that comes just to the 50, which is completely valid. And this is MB2 with the one resting candle in between. So this is completely valid as well. And the stage two previous was very strong. This is what I mean by the acceleration, right? This kind of stuff over here when it goes away, when it has that pop, right? So here, pop, reaccumulates, pop, reaccumulates. That's what I like to see. That gives me confidence that this wants to continue moving in such a fashion after it reaccumulates. And what happens here? After, so yeah, it taps me in. I instantly thought, okay, this is gonna be a -1. Well, in replay tool, right? I didn't know how this is gonna play out, but I survived with my ATR stop loss. And here, this wasn't quite enough strength yet. I thought this could pull back one more time, and I wouldn't want to get tapped out just yet. But once it goes above this, that's enough sign of strength for me to reduce risk. And then I reduced risk a second time after, well, this candle, the big candle over here. I just took the screenshot a little too late, or I ticked too many times. But yeah, this is enough strength for me to reduce risk. And yeah, this goes to +5. That would have been a beautiful winner, but it wasn't on my radar. That's ultimately what matters. But it will be from now on. So shouldn't happen again. But yeah, anyway, let's label it up. So context, this is a stage one breakout on very good momentum. This is excellent momentum on the 6 minute, excellent momentum on the 1 minute, and I would say this is, yeah, what is this? Yeah, I think this is a very good entry. Yeah. Is it perfect? No, let me also. I don't usually use these, but I just want to see if it's above or not. Yeah, it is. Okay, cool. Yeah, this is above as well. Yeah, I think this is a perfect entry. So overall, I think this was a perfect trade. Perfect. So yeah, that's all. That's it. That's all. So, as always, let's take a look at. I'm gonna put this over here. Let's take a look at the analysis for this week. So we got week 23 here, and boop, boop, boop. So what the fuck is this? Oh yeah, yeah, that's a lesson. I see. That's a lesson. What kind of lesson was that? I just want to take a quick look on it. Open. Oh yeah, it's the stage one rule. I see, I see. So one very important rule is to determine at what point does a sideways price action become stage one, because I don't want to trade stage one. And ultimately, the way it works is that once it starts reaccumulating and it loses its momentum cycle, I pretty much only want to trade the first new fresh momentum cycle out of it. So once something like this happens, so this, right? This starts moving into a new momentum cycle. Here, probably the EMAs would be rising. That's like the prime entry for me to start looking for trades or prime area. And if that fails again, that already shows me that there is inconsistency in the market and I don't want to participate in this, and I label it as a stage one. So that's how I define it from now on, and ultimately I will always wait for a new breakout into a new range. So yeah. Yeah. If it fails the newly forming momentum cycle, I will skip the entire range and wait for a new breakout. Okay. So what do we have this week? Ultimately, I need to filter out does not contain didn't take. All right. So these should be the trades that I have taken this week, right? Yes. And I end up with plus zero point 0.8. I also think, was it here? No, no. Yeah, plus zero point 0.8. So tiny, tiny little bit of profit because I caught one win on UJ. But other than that, it was three losses and two break evens, it seems. Were any of those mistakes? Yeah, one of them was a mistake here on NAS 100. I remember the second one I didn't take anymore because it had a weird entry that I wasn't completely sure about. But ultimately, I should have filtered out both of them because the context was not ideal. I was a little bit too early in a stage one. So, yeah, nice. Many perfect trades, many good trades. Overall, I'm pretty happy with how I performed. Let's take a look at where I traded. So the context, right? Beautiful context. So here, this is the only context I dislike a little bit because, well, this could be very simply redistribution. I'm also gonna include that here. Possibly distribution also goes in here. So these are the only contexts that I don't like too much. Like you can see why I got lured into it, especially because of this momentum over here, right? But it just happened in an ugly, choppy, weird area. So I should not have taken that. This was beautiful. This was beautiful. This was beautiful. This was beautiful. Let's take a look at the V's. They should ultimately look the same as the C's. Beautiful momentum. Beautiful momentum. This, yeah, was a little bit choppy, but not too bad. Beautiful momentum, active momentum cycles, big chunky candles, very nice. Same should be on the 1 minute for 10-second entries. Beautiful momentum here as well. This is an entry. This is, yep, this is decent momentum. So is this. So is this. Big active momentum cycles. Yep, this is looking amazing. And entries, well, I can see entries very quickly based on the little boxes here. This was a perfect DMB. This was a perfect DMB. This was a perfect DMB. This was a little bit weak, could be stronger. This, yeah, this was pretty perfect. Again, could be a little bit stronger, but it's definitely good. And this one, yeah, this one was good as well. This one was good as well. This one was questionable. That's why I didn't take it, and I need to do some homework here. And this one was perfect. Yeah, this one was perfect. So yeah, good C's, good V's, good E's. Overall, very happy with my performance. And what went bad? What went bad? One context was not the best. Should have ruled out distribution first. And that was this one. So I'm going to take a screenshot of that. Boop. And I'm going to include it over here. Yeah, just like that. So results are 0.8R, and results after filtering mistakes. If I didn't make any mistakes and I actually took what I was supposed to take. So wait a second, how? Uh, so didn't take, should have taken. I think like this. Where's the silver trade? Okay, okay. So silver, yeah. I created a new property. Didn't take. I have to remove that and instead do should have taken. Yeah. And now I can take away. I can filter out mistakes. Should have taken both of these. Okay, okay. So should I have taken this one? Which one is that? Uh, uh, oh yeah. That's the one I didn't watch, of course. This is the UJ that I did take, and this is the silver that I should have taken. Yeah. Makes sense. So if I didn't make any mistakes and I had taken the trades that I was supposed to, I would be up 11.6R. So this just goes to show what can happen when you miss one win, or, well, if you miss one or two trades, right? Here, like, yeah, the NAS 100 miss, that was stupid. That should not have happened. I should have continued watching it, and I'm getting better at it. So it's an execution error. The silver, I definitely don't think there was a mistake with that, because I wasn't even following it. It wasn't on my watch list whatsoever, but it will be from now on. So yeah, could have secured two additional wins, but even if I didn't, like, at best, I could have prevented one mistake. So if I just take a look at all the mistakes that I did this week. So one I didn't even take, and one, yeah, I could have simply gotten +1 instead. So I would be up 1.8R instead of 0.8. And honestly, that's fine. That's fine. I mean, it was quite a tricky one, and I can understand why I got lured in. But yeah, overall, I'm very happy with how this week went. Even though price action was not the best, you can see that there are indeed rare opportunities where something pops and it gives a chance to extract some profits from the market. Just that's the problem with the super low time frames. You just need to be perfect with your execution. Otherwise, even if you miss one or two trades, it can make such a huge difference. So yeah, anyway, next week I want to focus on exactly the same. There's nothing necessarily new that I need to do. Mm, One thing maybe that I need to get better at is at following markets. Uh, so how am I going to formulate this? Mm, don't lose track of markets you follow. Yeah, so that's just one thing that I need to get better at. It's been a repeating issue. Like, it doesn't happen too often, but it still happens occasionally, and that's very bad. It shouldn't happen. I already used the alerts I don't really have an excuse for this. So, yeah, that's the one thing that I'm going to roast myself for just a little bit. Other than that, I'm pretty happy with everything. So yeah, GG's. I think this was probably a bit longer than I would expect. I thought it's going to be faster, but I had a lot to say to myself, a lot to coach myself on. So ultimately, it ended up being a little bit longer, but that's okay. So yeah. Okay, if any of this, as always, if any of this sparked any thoughts in you, let me know. Shoot me a DM or tag me in Trade Talk. I'm happy to discuss trading, as always. And enjoy your weekends. I'm going to see you in the markets next week. Okay, peace out.